World Telecommunication Day on May 17th, but from 2004-5 onwards, it has become the World Telecommunication and Information Society Day, trying to incorporate the importance of not only of telecom, but also as the information technology that is changing our daily life. So that is renamed as a World Telecommunication and Information Society Day, WTISD, and every year it's celebrated on 17th May. And this year, and every year we have a theme. So this year the theme is Connect 2030, ICTs for Sustainable Developmental Goals. So can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. No, the earlier one, second one. Yeah. So if you see the status of world telecom today, we are more than 8 billion mobile connections working in the world, including Internet of Things, including the machine type SIMs. So which means that with a world population of about 7.4 billion or so, we are almost, our tele density is more than 1, if you take that one. But if you take the unique connections in terms of humans only, with multiple number of people, have some people having multiple number of mobile connections. So that is about 5.2 billion unique connections. This has been a great achievement over the last 20 years. So much so because earlier we have had a tele density of about 1% or 2% or 3% in the developing countries. And now in India also we have an urban tele density of about 1.4 in the urban area, which means that on an average, every person in the urban city limits in India is having 1.4 connections, whereas the rural one number is coming to about something about 45-50%. So there is a still long way to go in the rural domain, but on an average, India as a country, we are nearing the tele density of 1 on an average, statistically speaking. We have about 4 billion plus people across the world which are having access to the internet, and with an average Wi-Fi speeds of about 30 Mbps, which is supposed to increase over the next few years as new and new technologies of Wi-Fi, like Wi-Fi. Right now we are using mostly 2.11 A, B, C, N, and other things, and some other super Wi-Fi and other kind of things are also on the anvil. So the speed also is going to increase in the days to come. But then there are a lot many regional disparities, like Western Europe, North America, and all are more or less 100%. Some parts of Asia Pacific, like South Korea, for example, or Singapore, for example, or Hong Kong, these are the domains which are having near 100% tele density, with almost every house having a broadband connection, a wired broadband connection, which provides unlimited bandwidth. But whereas most of the houses in India, in the developing countries, Asia Pacific, and Africa, are still largely unconnected by the wired domain, possibly because it is costlier, point number one, and then the infrastructure also has not scaled up to that level. But then the estimation is that the MTM connections will be about half the total mobile devices by about 2030. So which means that more than the human beings, the machine communications will be the driver for tomorrow. That is going to be the engine for tomorrow. And 4K video is going to grow further, and that is going to be the standard. Like now, we are having multiple flavors like SD, standard division, then we have the high definition, and then the ultra high definition, which is 4K video. Okay. Are you able to hear me better now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Next slide.
So, yeah. Next slide, please. So, if I look at this one, this is a very peculiar slide which says that how does the internet what kind of traffic is going on the internet in a per minute basis. So, if you go on to the internet per minute basis, then what we are seeing is we are having a huge amount of data, video-driven applications which are going on in a very big way. So we are having a huge amount of data which is coming in from the video. Netflix, say for example, if you see in 2017, we have only 70,000 hours watched in one internet minute. But today we are having 694. It's nearly a 10-time growth, in these past 2 years. Similarly, you have a lot many number of things people uploading on Instagram or on what you call the Facebook kind of things. But most importantly, what you are seeing is the number of text messages is more or less stagnated, right? But more amount of content is going in terms of videos enormously in terms of Netflix or the Amazons or those kind of things. Those are the kind of things that are going to drive the data growth in the years to come. Those are the ones which are going to ensure that the customer satisfaction is going to be met here or not. So that is the biggest challenging kind of thing that we are seeing right now. If I take a realistic scenario, in the present scenario, we are running the entire BSNL internet backbone sitting here in Bangalore, and what we have seen is from a daily traffic in a pre-COVID era of about 9,000 terabytes per day. The entire traffic that is going on through BSNL was about 9,000 terabytes per day. That has shot up to about 11.5 terabytes per day during this COVID scenario. So, which means to say that the amount of data and video that are being consumed by the customers are increasing tremendously. We are seeing huge amount of traffic going towards YouTube, going towards Google, going towards Facebook. These are the big buckets, which big sinks, which are consuming huge amount of data. And not only across for BSNL, but all the operators per se, we are seeing a data increase of about 20 to 30% enormously. So much so that the content providers had to perforce take a decision, and the licensor also has given a decision saying that during these times people cannot augment the infrastructure in a sudden way, so immediately change over from HD to drop down to SD, standard definition, so that the consumption of bandwidth would be reduced to that extent. So we wanted to ensure that everybody gets a fair share of the pie, and everybody gets a good experience, user experience. Can we go to the next slide, please? Kali Prasad, next slide, please. Yeah. So if you see a technology-wise mobile access, then we see slowly at this point of time, as we are talking, the 3G and below is going on the way down. More and more number of people are coming into 4G, and possibly from 21, 22 onwards, the 5G would start taking off in a big way. That is going to be the driver for future. So 2G, 3G are technologies of the old. We are not believing seeing much amount of traction. Okay, they'll still be around, but a lot much amount of traffic is going to be data, and data is being driven by 4G and 5G predominantly than 3G. So to that extent, what this is a curve that tells that the number of billions of devices or connections which are going to be there on each technology wise. So we are from 21 onwards, we are going to see a huge uptick in terms of the 5G traffic, which will come to about 10.6% by 2023, which is going to be a substantial number. And 4G would be 46%, which is nearly 50% of the entire traffic being carried out by 2023, which is about 3 years down the line. So going forward, possibly by 2030, when we are talking about the timeline of 2030, we would be seeing it as 4G and 5G ruling the roost, with possibly 2G on its way out and 3G also on its way out. That's going to be the technology trends of the future. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. This year's thing, which basically highlights the ICT advances for transition to smart and sustainable development, as has been told in the chairman's message. Okay, it will focus on specific ICT enabled solutions and emerging trends for fostering economic, environmental, and social sustainability. So, what we are trying to find out is how ICT plays an enabling role in ensuring that society meets all its goals, sustainable development goals. I'll come to that in a minute. And most importantly, what is the key role that is played by the ICT in this domain? So, towards that, what we are seeing is that it has to have 5 important goals of growth, inclusiveness, sustainability, innovation, and partnership. And the sustainability development goals, they definitely recognize that the spread of ICT and global interconnectedness has a great potential to accelerate human progress, which is what we are seeing in these tough times of COVID, when almost every infrastructure has come to a halt. It is the ICT information technology which has enabled people to continue to operate remotely, to do work from home, and to do enable go life as usual, so that all our main things keep on continuing, and also providing the basic infrastructure so that the society can continue to run in a normal fashion as it was earlier prior to the lockdowns. This is the enabling infrastructure that is playing the critical role today in our lives. And this is what is to be celebrated in this World Telecom and Information Society Day. And we would like to harness the power of this technology to take it to a further higher level, to ensure that that plays a more tighter and a more beneficial role in the lifestyles of our people, of our lives in the days to come. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So these are the 17 Sustainable Developmental Goals of the United Nations. So to remember it easier, instead of putting up a simple number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they have also given some kind of a emoji kind of a thing, a graphic, which basically captures essentially what exactly is the goal that we are talking of. Goal number 1, as usual for any developmental institution, would be to have no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being. These are the 1, 2, 3 kind of things for anybody, equivalent to our roti kapda makan kind of thing. And then we have a quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation. These are the next level of aspirational goals, which will basically, after taking care of the hunger and what do you call staying, right, roof and hunger. Then we come to the next level of goals, which are of aspirational ones in terms of gender equality, and then access to clean water and sanitation, and affordable and clean energy. And then comes about the societal part of it. The first 6 or 7, first 5, 6 are basically more about the individualistic one. But then subsequently, we go up to the societal level where we try to talk about affordable and clean energy. You talk about decent work and economic growth. We talk about innovation and infrastructure in the industry and in the workplace. We talk about reducing inequalities. Remember, there is a gender equality and then reduced inequalities. Gender inequality is basically given a primacy to ensure that women are not being discriminated. The amount of discrimination that we are seeing against the women in workplace or in society per se used to be removed, and that's why that has been given an enhanced focus at the Sustainability Development Goal of 5. But then the reduced inequalities at a moral society level and the economic and the wealth platform, where we are talking about reduced inequality in terms of having improved equitable distribution of wealth and well-being of the society. And then we have the greater one of sustainable cities and communities. We talk about smart cities kind of things. And then responsible consumption and production. We talk about climate action. We have talk about life above, below water, and life on earth, and peace, justice, and strong institutions, which talks more about the democratization of the institutions of the world, so that everybody has equitable chance to decide his future and to decide about the form of governance that he wants to have. And then we also have the partnerships for all the goals, the kind of interlinking things which United Nations and its chartered bodies, as well as other bodies like the G20 or whosoever G7, they do intermingle with all the people so as to further these goals to take our humanity to a larger one. So these are the 17 sustainable developmental goals. And let us try to see how our ICT basically plays a role in some of these key things. I don't want to touch each and every sector, but then we can basically touch some points so that we have a flair of what exactly is the capabilities of ICT and how they are able to do that. So, how ICTs are changing the world? So, ICTs can enable and empower poor and can bridge the rich and poor divide, because access to information is one of the important things that has been found to be disabling the poor. Right, the poor don't have access to information, whereas the rich or the wealthy people or the higher levels or higher middle and the upper class society of people, they are able to have access to the information, and information is power. Information is allowing them to change their behavior or their attitudes or their approaches to different kinds of problems that they are facing. Whereas the poor, lot many times, by virtue of not having the information and not having access to the information, more importantly, are not able to fashion their responses to any challenges. So that is what ICTs can play an important role, because it's there. It is a democratic kind of a device. It can be put on each and every mobile phone. It can be put on whole world can be at your fingertips, as the cliche goes. So all these things can basically really enable and empower the poor. Like I can give you an example, like how we are seeing today off late that during this COVID scenario, when the poor do not know where to, how to reach to the station, to reach to their hometowns, etc. ICT technologies, some local homegrown solutions have been developed, which provide access to the migrant workers to tell that, okay, you go to there, you are here taking your location. I am trying to tell them that, okay, you go to the nearest shelter, you go to the nearest government shelter, or the location where you can access to the government officials, and then they would be taking care of you to go to their native places. So these are the ways the ICT technologies are enabling them to provide access to information, and then allowing them to take a decision as to, okay, now that I have this information, what do I do with this information, and how do I handle this one further. They also are allowing the massively open courses, right? MOOCs, which we call as a MOOCs, like the NPTEL things or the MIT open courseworks, or whatever it is, Coursera or any of these things. They're allowing access to quality education. In these times of COVID, what we are seeing is a huge amount of traffic to all these MOOCs, because they are enabling, they are acting as a bridge for the people to provide access to information. In days when the schools are not able to work, when colleges are not working, people still are actually able to access to into the internet, and are also able to access to these resources which are available on the internet, and lot many people, lot many universities have thrown open their resources for free to enable the students, be their own students or anybody's worldwide, to get access to that information and then improve their skills during this time. So this is the way in which they are transforming the world for good. We also have apps which ensure safety for women while traveling alone or in distress. We have all those kind of things, Rakshak and other kind of things. We have apps which are allowing monitoring of remote monitoring of people's well-being and safety. Okay, for example, we have this COVID app which has been developed by the government of India, and also multiple apps which basically does a huge amount of data mining, trying to find out using our coordinates, right? Keeps on monitoring our coordinates and then try to find out whether I am in touch with anybody, if any COVID positive person has come near to me or not. So in that way, using the data sets, using the huge mining the huge data sets, running into billions of CDRs, call data records, and the location data points for each user, the apps are able to come up with reasonable accuracy. I would not say 100% accuracy, but at least with a reasonable accuracy, with a sufficient accuracy, they are able to tell that okay, whether we have been in touch with anybody who has got possibly a COVID, and we are like how likely we are to get an infection. So these are the transformative capabilities of the ICTs, and these are enabling the responses. These are allowing us to fashion our responses to this major crisis, which have been unthought of till now. The solutions were there earlier, but then we are having these multiple hackathons by all these governments, by all the people, by the Bill Gates Foundation or the United Nations or anybody, which are allowing people to come out to exploit the technologies, to allow them to come out with the creativity and innovation and to solve the major problems of the day, which is what these are the outcomes of the major hackathons, and they are trying to solve the problems of the world, and they are solving all these problems using the technologies which are prevalent, which are available today right now itself. And going forward, the trend would be that we will be in a position to do those kind of things in a much better way, much more efficiently, and in a much more larger scale than what we are doing right now, limited to a smaller domain. So today, what we are having today, for example, our COVID response for that one, our app, Suraksha app, can scale to the worldwide as well, right? What has been developed in a localized kind of a scenario can scale to anywhere things. In addition to that, each and every department of the government of India also today are having their own apps and tools which are allowing us to do whatever we have to do to ensure the safety and security of the people. Okay, can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, these are the we'll go to this one, sir. Earlier one.
Yes.
Can you then the next one? Earlier one, yeah. Earlier one, yeah. So we are using this ICT effectively in this COVID-19. One thing what we have found out is ICT has to be brought on board. Otherwise, our responses for COVID cannot scale to cover a country of 130 billion people, scale to meet the requirements of all the people, scale to ensure that everybody is having information dissemination, right? So these are the kind of things that are required for us, and for that purpose, we are fashioned our responses accordingly. So we have used extensive use the ICTs for monitoring and tracking the infected people. Whenever anybody is claiming as a corona infected or COVID infected person, we are registering his number. We are finding out, tracking out from all the call detail record where all locations he has visited, because the location is available in the call detail records. So which all the locations that the person has gone to, and possibly trying to figure out who are all the people to whom he has affected, interacted, and possibly trying to contain the secondary infections. That is one kind of massive use that is being done for this. We are also enabling infrastructure for widespread dissemination, like we have given for the collar tunes or the ringback tunes and everywhere some common safety measures that have to be taken, or what are the kind of things that you should do if you get COVID-19, etc. All those kind of things we are able to provide and disseminate the information about the pandemic. We are also providing reliable and robust communication technologies for work from home, so much so that almost now, for example, a company like TCS has now told that going forward, possibly by 2023, they want nearly 75% of their workforce to work from home. So going forward, possibly even many countries, even government of India for that matter, are looking at a scenario where possibly more and more amount of work can be done from work from home, and can be a staggered work times can be given for the employees. So this is going to be the technology of the future. How efficiently and how safely I can provide a work from home environment, and how secure can it be, so that I ensure that no hacking or malware doesn't come into my office infrastructure, even though I'm continuing to work from a home environment, which is on the public internet. We are also following up on tele-education in a very big way, but telemedicine also is one area where possibly we are expecting that some amount of growth we are going to see in the days to come. So effectively, the realization has dawned on everybody that the technology today is available for us to do anything remotely, either a telemedicine or a tele-education kind of thing. But till now, the technology was there, but there has been no driver for that. There is no push for that. And this COVID scenario has helped us to realize the availability of this technology and the utilizability and the common good that can come out of this technology. So to that extent, it is able to come out in a big way, and we are expecting that tele-education and telemedicine are going to grow in a very big way in the days to come. In the days to come. So these are all going to be critical and essential tools that are helping us face this challenge, which is what has been acknowledged by the United Nations as well, that ICT technologies have suddenly come to play the center stage. Now today, in addition to the food and the hunger and other kind of things, people are ever dependent on the ICT tools to get access to the information, to stay in touch with their loved beings, to communicate with each other as to what is their plan and other kind of things, and also to work to do their work remotely. So in that way, suddenly what we are finding is in the telecom and information science, information society world, we are not accustomed to being in the spotlight, so to speak, right? People take us for granted, but now suddenly we are thrust into the focus, and we are put into the spotlight where everybody is asking, hey, what's happening? I want this bandwidth. I want my bandwidth to increase further. I'm getting congestion here. So there is enormous amount of focus on the telecom service providers, on the ICT service providers, and demand for new and new applications are coming up at a faster rate, ever faster rate, to meet the requirements of the people for doing their day-to-day life. So these are the more challenges that we see for the ICT, and ICT is going to be a relevant thing in the days to come. Yeah. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, one approach for ICT is possibly what I was thinking of in 2030 is smart cities, which is what government is also pushing in a very big way. Cities, as we all know, are the magnets that are attracting people for jobs, education, health, or whatever it is. So the existing cities are very, in India especially, the existing cities are very cramped with no proper growth and other kind of things, with unstructured growth, irregular colonies, no proper planning and growth. So the idea of smart cities is that we modernize the existing cities so that they can leverage the ICT infrastructure to provide better governance and also improved quality of life. We have seen in some cities which are the front runners in ICT, like Baroda, for example, or Ahmedabad, for example, or some of those cities, how they are able to leverage the ICT infrastructure, and the municipal corporation is able to monitor each and everything, right? And they are able to do it in a very sustainable way. And they are putting smart meters and devices which are monitoring everything and anything, and they are also immediately able to take corrective action. And this is having a throwing a huge amount of data, so that the big data analytics are coming into play, and this data is able to give us a facility and flexibility to do a deeper analysis and see usage patterns, and accordingly to take the response to a next higher level. This is what is envisaged in the Smarter Cities project, and for which the bedrock, the fundamental foundation of the Smarter Cities is ICT technologies, which is what one of the sustainable developmental goals is as well. Like it or not, today the development of the future is going to be in the cities, and cities have to be sustainable, cities have to be livable, cities have to continue to attract people, wealth, manpower, resources are continue to be attracted from the hinterland areas, and also they are the drivers for growth. So to enable this growth engine to continue, we need to invest in the smart cities, and the smart cities are driven by the ICT technologies. Multifarious ICT technologies are coming up, like smart metering, like IoT, like you name it and you have it. Linking from sewage monitoring to rainwater monitoring, like leading to flood water, storm water monitoring. All kinds of things, or whatever civic thing is there, everybody is putting up a sensor, trying to ring it up to the cloud, and get the data from all the entities, and then sitting in the cloud, try to analyze the data, and then try to figure out your central location in the command center, as to what exactly should be the response of the government and how can I solve this problem so that the quality of life improves enormously. That is the biggest challenge that we are seeing it today, right, sir? Yeah. Can you go to the next one, sir? So the emerging ICT technologies, some of them have used the word emerging in the sense that they are there, but then they are not yet flowered it, they are not bloomed fully to the fullest. So we have been hearing about artificial intelligence in terms of machine intelligence, in terms of machines automatically doing taking data on their own, robotic process automation. All these kind of things are there, but they are being used in niche areas. But what I mean by emerging ICT technologies by the year 2030 is these will become the mainstay for us. Robotic process automation, for example, which says that basing on the data that is coming from the edge devices, I try to find out and automatically I take a decision on my own as to what should be the response. If this event happens, what should be my response? So that the manual intervention is reduced and almost nil. So unless there is a grave issue, I don't escalate to the human intervention, and remaining all things, decisions are taken by the machines, which is a more efficient, less error prone kind of thing. Possibly, yes, there could be some isolated errors kind of thing, but then in larger extent, they are not prone to the errors that we are doing. We are prone to rather. We also have blockchain kind of technologies, which are based on the shared ledger devices, which ensure encryption and the security and safety of our communications predominantly, and also all the transactions, authenticity of the transactions and other things also can be ensured using blockchain. On terms of video, people are placing a huge bet on augmented reality, not just streaming of video, but ensuring that using the haptic controls and other things, ensuring that augmented reality becomes a truism. So we expect that most amount of data going forward will be on augmented reality, because that is going to the big business case for people to shell down money on. You feel as if you are there, you right. So that's where the big money is going to come from in the future, and so lot much development is happening on augmented reality. I'll take this opportunity to also spend a couple of slides on these 5G technologies, which basically talk about enhanced mobile broadband. Can you go to the earlier slide, please? Enhanced mobile broadband, which has basically three basic features, which are the three vertices of a triangle, right? Can you go to the next slide? So, which is the enhanced mobile broadband at the top apex, which is basically trying to give more and more bandwidth speeds up to 1 Gbps or so to each user, right? When they are using a mobile phone or something, of course, this is subject to the availability of spectrum up to a 1 Gbps kind of thing, which will fundamentally alter the way we live, we do our daily transactions and other kind of things. Imagine if we are able, every one of us are able to get a huge amount of, say, at least say 10 MB or 20 Mbps kind of a stream on a dedicated basis, then practically I need not have to go to office, because the kind of intimacy or the intimate setting that I get in a virtual, in a face-to-face kind of approach is also available in the virtual world itself. If I were to able to get that kind of bandwidth on every person at this point of time today, using our 3G and 4G technologies, we are, and due to positive spectrum and other things, we are able to limit it to only some couple of 1 or 2 Mbps kind of thing only in terms of end-to-end throughput. But imagine if you were to get an enhanced mobile broadband of at least tens of Mbps kind of thing, then that would change completely in a dramatic way our interactions with the outside world, our interactions with our office or anywhere, whatever it is. It also gives us enormous amount of flexibility in terms of these other applications like remote monitoring of the house, video applications. You can do telemedicine kind of thing. You can do tele education. You can also do remote surgeries kind of thing. The possibilities are endless and limitless, and lot many amount of use cases are there. And in fact, there are a lot many people are now working on 5G use cases more than the 5G technology per se. People are living the technology part, and more importantly, people are working on the 5G use cases. What is a kind of killer app which I want to develop using this 5G bandwidth or 5G speeds that it is available to me, so that I can develop a killer app and get monetize it and make change the world. So lot many people, startups are working in the realm of domain of 5G apps rather than 5G per se. On one side, that is basically talking about the gigabytes in a second. So we have the 3D video, UHD screens, work and play in the cloud, augmented reality, industry automation, all those kind of things. And then we have a smart home building which encompasses what have you, data, video, voice, text, or whatever is everything in a single pipe kind of thing. Then we have the massive machine type communications. The massive machine type communications are those kind of things which are basically for the smart city kind of thing. which are basically you are having an array of sensors which are basically trying to communicate to you. You can do agriculture, remote agriculture, agriculture sensors, sensors for cities, sensors for weather, sensors for whatever in your fridge, in your TV, in your whatever it is. So each and everything, like people say that in the days to come, the MMTC kind of thing communications will be much more in terms of volume, in terms of number, not in terms of traffic, but in terms of number, they are going to beat the humans in a very big way. In fact, this is also helped by the availability of IPv6 because IPv6, as the saying goes, as all of you are aware, has 28 byte, 128 bit addressing schema, and as the adage goes, they say that they can give IP address to every living being on the world. So, for every, including animals or flies or whatever it is, everything can be given an IP address. So, this every uh, every device having an IP address and communicating to the cloud and sharing the data points. That is one domain in which the 5G is going to see a lot much amount of proliferation. And on the other side, I am going to see ultra reliable and low latency communication. This one is massive machine type where the numbers are more, but they will not be communicating that frequently. But the other side is ultra reliable and low latency communication. The communication is very high, of high bandwidth, and the latency is very less, of the order of microseconds or milliseconds. This basically we are seeing in terms of in the realm of self-driving cars or mission critical applications, where the latency has to be very less. Latency is defined as the time taken for the packet to go and come back. So the time taken for the packet to go and come back should be very less for a self-driving car because it has to basically see the video, get the surroundings, and take a decision or contact the base station or some control center and then try to take a call as to whether it should apply the brake, it should accelerate, or should take a curve, or what kind of decision it is to take. So these kind of things that are there in mission critical applications and self-driving cars and some to some extent in industry automation are going to be another domain, another facet of 5G, which is the URLLC, ultra reliable and low latency communication. So we see that there are these three pillars, three domains into which 5G has been divided into: enhanced mobile broadband, a massive machine type communication. Enhanced mobile broadband is more bandwidth, more number of devices, and lesser latency. So these three are going to be the drivers for 5G, and this is going to be interplay for the days to come. Yeah. Can we go to the next slide, please? So just to sum up, the benefits of 5G for us being a telecom guy, I thought I should not leave my domain. And I put one or two slides on 5G to wrap up this talk. So I thought I'll put the benefits of 5G in terms of quantifying the performance benefits of 5G. We think that the latency would be as low as 1 millisecond. At this point of time, say for example, if I'm traveling for a distance of about 1,000 kilometers, right? So 1,000 kilometers typically my latency would be about 5 millisecond or so. I would want to reduce it further drastically, both in terms of the improvements in the optics, in the ability to carry my bandwidths, and also in the speeds in the optics, as well as bring the computing devices to the edge. So this is a fundamental thing. Right now, what is happening is earlier we all have grown up on a scenario of telling that the server is somewhere in abroad, in US or Germany or in some far off location, and we are all clients to that. So our edge is here, but the server, which is a core, is at a far off location. So the latency is more because of the packet has to travel all the way from India to US or to wherever the server is there and get the response back. So one way of doing this reduced latency is to bring the server as close to the user as possible, which is what is called as a new domain called edge computing. So what we do in edge computing is we try to put all the servers, all the content, all the videos, etc., as close to the user as possible, so as to ensure that the end user gets a beautiful end user experience, which is what we are trying to do when we are trying to put more amount of videos, caching engines, and other kind of things in all distributed quarters or something like that. So that whenever you are trying to access any of your mobile devices or any of the websites on any movies or anything, all the downloads happen. It doesn't go to Bombay or Chennai or any other far off location, but all the content does come from your remote location, from your local location. So we are going hyper local to reduce the latency. We want to increase the connection density, which is the MMTC kind of thing, where we want to ensure that 10 times more amount of devices would continue to operate, and the signaling is more efficient, and ensure that the devices do not require recharge, are more efficient in terms of energy efficient, and they don't require a recharge or a battery replacement possibly once in a year or once in 2 years kind of thing. So that all the smart meters which we are thinking of tomorrow, all the sensors that we are planning for tomorrow, they don't serve the purpose if somebody has to go and monitor and change the battery frequently, say once in a month or something like that. So the idea is to ensure a low signaling data, but try to continue. They will be alive, but they will be so energy efficient that the initial battery would suffice for possibly a year or two, and then only you have to replace the battery for them or go for a recharge. That is one of the trying benefits of 5G, which is one of the goals for 5G. We want to use 3 times more spectrum efficiency. In terms of the spectrum efficiency is measured in bits per hertz, bandwidth or bits per hertz kind of thing, and using efficient MIMO technologies, massive input and massive output kind of technologies. We want to ensure massive efficient spectrum so that we are able to deliver more amount of bandwidth for the given spectrum in a particular area. We want to do this using innovative ideas like adaptive beam steering, adaptive beam forming, and then massive MIMO and all that, whatever you have. We have MIMO both on the transmission side as well as on the receiver side, and then 64 into MIMO kind of thing is being talked about in 5G in a very big way. We want to increase 10 times kind of a bandwidth all over the world so that we get up to multi gigabits per second rates, and then that would basically translate into more better beneficial end user experience. Today, I remember those days when we joined the department some 25 years back. 9.6 kbps is a standard one, and that was a prime kind of a thing. Now nobody gives a damn about say 9.6 kbps. Forget about 9.6 kbps. Even people are talking about 10 mbps. Anything less than any bandwidth provider, any cable wala or telecom service provider or anybody is able to provide 100 Mbps or 1 Gbps kind of bandwidths. So we have come a far way in terms of the growth, in terms of the bandwidth that the customer is using. And curiously, even though we are thinking that what is the application for all this, we are consuming that bandwidth in a unhitherto imagined way. The demand for bandwidth is insatiable. We are not able to satisfy the demand, and the demand is going to be there, and we just have to meet it. That's it. We are also going to go for 100%, 100 times increase in the traffic capacity and 100 times improvement in the network efficiencies. So taking all these things, the 5G, which is going to come up in a big way into the country, possibly from 2021, 22 kind of thing in India, and which is going to be the basic driver for 2030 also, till 2030 also, is going to completely transform the way we live, the way we educate, the way we do our lifestyle and other kind of things. And this transformational thing is what the World Information Society Day envisages and urges everybody to celebrate and keep in mind, think about of all these things in on this occasion. So with that, I think I'll stop my presentation here, and then I'm open to any questions. I can take any amount of time, no issue. Any queries on whatever has been discussed here till now, and or any other thing. I thank you all for your patient hearing.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, one thing before anyone can have some queries to Ravishankar Garu. But one thing, sir, our chairman, sir,
Yeah.
I think if we hold, have a meeting in IET local center, I think hardly 5 will be the members. I think today we are having around 53 participants.
It is very fortunate, sir. Very fortunate.
Quite fortunate. I think we should have webinars rather than the personal, normal, venue-based events. Almost 58 participants like our KL, Professor Lakshminaran Garu, they are all there. Any queries, please, kindly, so that...
This is a change in habit that is going on. Earlier,
Yes,
people
yes.
were not on web, but thanks to COVID.
Yes.
Many staff members from the Sir College of Engineering, sir.
Please. Hello.
Oh, participated, sir.
Sir?
Raise your hand, sir. If anybody would like to question, better raise hand and so that we can speak.
Hello.
Hello.
Does anyone? Yes, sir.
Hello.
Sir. Venkateswara garu, please.
Thanks for the session, Secretary Garu and Prasad Garu.
Okay.
Thankful for Ravi Shankar Garu. Ravi Shankar Garu. I know him personally. Sir, Ravi Shankar Garu, are you remember me?
I think he is not in the, his video got stuck, I think.
Hello.
He is not in line actually. I think is I will convey him. You please tell sir. Venkateswara garu.
Sir, okay. Very good program. Thank you, everyone.
Fine.
Thanks.
Sir, this is Lakshmana from Sierra Engineering College, sir.
Yes, sir. Nice, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Actually, out of 51 people have presented in this meeting, but the most of the people are from our college, sir. Sierra Engineering College, Eluru. 20 members are participated, sir. They are all the IIT members, sir.
Oh, very good, excellent. Definitely,
I am actually the coordinator of this IIT chapter in our college. I circulated this thing with the help of our instruction from our HOD sir, Dr. T. Venkateswara garu, and I mobilized many staff members are
very good, sir. Very good.
That's what I want to add this point to you, sir.
Thank you,
Kali
sir.
Prasad garu.
Sir.
Kali Prasad garu.
Yes, sir. Tell me, I am there. I am online.
I am Shiv Prasad from RVR Engineering College.
Guntur. Yes, sir. Namaste, Japade.
Dr. Shiv Prasad.
Yes, sir. Sir, Japade.
Congratulations, sir. Congratulations for organizing World Telecommunication Day in IIT Vijayawada Center.
Yes, sir.
And chairman, secretary, and all other office persons. I am congratulating you on this occasion.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Prasad garu.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Sir, Ravi Shankar garu is online now. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have had a power failure here suddenly.
No problem, sir. Actually, it is a showering now there. Actually, it is raining itself.
Yeah, it is. There lot much of thunderstorms are there now. Right now, lot much of thunderstorms going on.
Any questions that one of our past chairman T. Venkateswara Rao is online actually. He is my classmate also, MSc classmate.
Okay.
And for all the members to know that Ravi Shankar garu is my classmate at IIT Kanpur. And I should say I am fortunate that I am classmate to him. Okay. And another one is in the same school we have studied, and I am a pass out in 1981, and he joined in the school in 1981. Yes, sir, am I right?
1977, sir.
So,
77.
77. Okay. So, Venkateswara garu, any query you can tell him.
Ravi Shankar garu, I am Venkateswara. Remember me, sir?